Hi, it's Mark Bossert from Top Local Lead Generation. We're here with award-winning realtor in Vancouver, Paul Toffoli. How are you doing today, Paul?
I'm great, Mark. Another beautiful Vancouver day. I think we've got about a week of summer left.
Well, hopefully a little bit longer. I've got some fresh lettuce in the garden. Anyhow, so we're going to talk about the real estate buying process overview, which I think is an awesome topic. We're going to talk about all the pieces of the process. So, Paul, what is the overview of the whole process of buying real estate?
Okay, so this is where it becomes interesting. Most people, when they start the process, they think, I'm just going to go to a few open houses, see what's out there, see if anything tickles my fancy, and then lo and behold, they see something I like, and then they're overwhelmed by the process because it's a very, um, not only are there a lot of steps and a lot of detail, but there's a lot of risk, and it can be very scary. So one of the things, or the process that I work through with my clients, is one that we try and go in an organized manner. So how does it start? And I'm just going to do an overview, and then we'll maybe dig deeper into some of these steps at a later date. But first thing, let's have a coffee. Let's talk about this process. Let's establish the criteria you're looking for. Why do you want to buy a property? Is it an investment? Is it a home? Is it something that's going to be a home for a while and then an investment? Those types of things. So let's talk about criteria. That can also be, where's it going to be? Is it a condo? Is it a house? How much can I afford? So that's a big part of the criteria, is getting that financing in order, working with a mortgage broker, working with some members of my extended team. I can refer mortgage brokers, etc. So what can I afford? I'd like to live in a mansion somewhere, but maybe I can afford a house, on a 33-foot lot. So that's a really important piece of the puzzle that we talk about early on in the process. And then as part of that process, what are the additional costs that go into not only home ownership or property ownership, that could be strata fees or insurance, etc., but what are the costs involved in the buying process? Their taxes, other fees, how does the realtor get paid? All those questions that we talk about and answer. And then once we've got that sort of overview in place, then we talk about, then we start going and looking at properties. And some of that is, the search process. So how do I find properties? How do I find what's available in my process? Am I a person who wants to see every single thing out there, or am I a person who just wants to see 5 things and I'm going to choose one of those 5? Everybody has a different process. So we talk about that. Then we start that process, going to open houses, going on tour with me where I set up the tour and doing that. Sometimes it's easy and there's a nice selection of properties. More often in the Vancouver marketplace, there's not a lot of selection. So it's a patience game where we get educated, get all of our ducks in a row, and wait for that one right property to come in place. Then once we've found that property, there's the offer process. So putting together a contract of purchase and sale. What are the subjects that we put on that property? Financing, inspection, if it's a strata documents, all those types of things. Negotiating that contract, those terms, price, dates, subjects, all of those types of things. And then, oh my God, what happens if it's a multiple offer and 4 people like the property, which shockingly enough sometimes happens in Vancouver? How do we make sure we're the ones that are going to get the property? Or if we're not the ones that are going to get the property, that we're okay that we didn't because we put our best foot forward. And then through that process, once we've got the contract negotiated and it's under contract, going through the subjects, getting that home inspection done, getting that financing done, so having everything in place so that instead of being a 2-week process, it's a 1-week process to make ourselves a little bit more attractive to the seller. Getting through that due diligence process. What I do for my clients is I read all the strata documents as well as my clients reading the strata documents. So again, that's there's lots of questions associated with those things. And then finally, once we've removed those subjects, we're at a place where it's decision time. We're going to remove the subject, and then post subject, getting ready for the closing. So finding a notary or lawyer. What do I need to look for? Do I need a notary or a lawyer? Are they interchangeable? And of course, that's a whole different can of worms I'm not going to get into right now. And then what else do I need to do? What about insurance for the home? What about, or the condo? What other things do I need? Finding a mover. What happens on the closing day? What happens the closing week? Where do the keys come from? All of those things are part of the process that we go through beginning to end. And then finally, the fun one, which is, well, no, the moving isn't fun, but the getting the keys is fun, and then the moving, and then living in your new home. So this is a multi-step, complex process that I think it's really important. And when I'm talking to my clients, it's really important to be highly organized around it and having someone to give you comfort, because I've gone through it. I go through it how many times a year? 40 plus times a year. I'm working with clients on this buying process and holding their hand through it, so that it's not a shock when a question comes up. Being prepared. That should be my new motto. Be prepared. Is that the Boy Scouts?
Yeah. So I think what I take away from that is that every client that you get is going to have some different wrinkle, some different criteria, some different obstacle or opportunity that changes a lot of what works. And because you've got a pretty massive amount of experience in this area for a lot of years, you've seen a lot of it already. And if you haven't even seen it before, it's familiar or close enough to something that you actually have done that you can help people through the process. Because I haven't been multi-home owner now. It's there's a few things that are more stressful than sitting there waiting on something that you missed. What do you think about that?
You don't want to be the day after you've removed subjects. Oh God, what about the whatever it might be, And one of just a small example, because I've renovated properties for myself. I've worked doing general contracting for myself and for others. I've worked, in my financial background, I've worked on managing thousands of rental properties. I have a deep background that's not just selling real estate. I own and manage real estate for myself. I've managed real estate for others. I've renovated real estate. And I had a client last week. We were looking at a house in Vancouver that we thought on first blush, when he went through the open, he thought it was going to be a great property for them. We went through, when I walked through the property, within 15 minutes I identified that there were vermiculite with potential asbestos repercussions. There might be an oil tank and about 4 other things even before we got to the offer and inspection stage. So they decided not to put an offer on that particular property just because there was just too much risk, more than they wanted to deal with. So often we can eliminate properties before you even get emotionally involved, and that's what really where the pain often comes, is you get emotionally bought into a property and then it's hard to let it go. So I try and help people walk through that process, or at least and definitely understand the risks they're dealing with.
So I guess that's for me, that's the benefit of having an experienced professional to guide you through what is an extremely complicated and often scary process. You have that little bit of peace of mind that you're not on your own, and somebody who's walked the walk and talked the talk and knows what he's doing and is going to help you make sure you're not getting into some kind of financial difficulty that you can't recover from.
Absolutely, and we try and have a little bit of fun in the process as well. It should be fun. You're looking for your home, but we try and take some of the anxiety and stress and manage it so that it's still going to be challenging, but at least it's not doesn't feel out of control.
Awesome. So we've been talking with Paul Toffoli. He's an award-winning realtor in Vancouver. You can reach Paul. You can see him on his website, toffoli.ca, or you can give him a call. Have that coffee with him, 604-787-6963. Thanks a lot, Paul.
Thanks, Mark.